Hello everybody, Necromancy for Kids here once again. This time with a video that I held off on for a very long time because, well, to be honest, for such a long time it was a bit too painful for me to make this. And even now it's a little bit tough for me, but not quite as difficult as it used to be. When I send out this video, it will be 1 year since Kentaro Miura, the creator of Berserk, passed away. And for me, the Kentaro Miura was a extremely influential person on my life in terms of the artwork and in terms especially of the stories that he created. I won't get too much detail about it right now, for those that don't want to hear a very sappy story or, personal details about my life. But I created this deck almost a year ago in memory of Kentaro Miura. Not that I think it's like going to really do anything, but I felt I had to do something to show my appreciation. So this is what I did with it. Unfortunately, I don't have very many skills, and I don't know if you even call this a skill, but that's how I decided to do it. So this is a deck built with almost exclusively cards that I think closely relate to characters and events in Berserk that are in GOAT format. And I will explain each of them and what reference they are as I go along alphabetically. Of course, first off, we have Berserk Gorilla because it is Berserk. Next up, I have Command Knight, which I decided to use to represent Casca. The other two that you could potentially see representing Casca here is either DD Warrior Lady or Amazonas Swordswoman. I decided to go for Command Knight because the effect kind of makes sense for what she did in the series, and I like her wearing all this armor. Next up, there's Cliff the Trap Remover, who's a reference to Judo and his knife skills. The Exiled Force kind of just represents the Band of the Hawk as a whole. I decided to put in Gravekeeper Spy as a representation of the Kushins. And there's Iron Blacksmith Kotetsu to represent Godo. There's also Magician of Faith, who I decided to use as Shirkei, although you also could use White Magician Pikaru. I think that would also be fitting. There's Manticore of Darkness to represent Zod, who is one of my favorite characters in the series, but not as liked by me as the next one. Representing Mephis, the Infernal General, is Skull Knight. Then we have Moai Interceptor Cannon, who I decided to use for Mozgus. And Morphing Jar here, along with the Pot of Greed in a way, they both can represent the Behelit, or perhaps even you could say the Egg of the King. Nudoria is kind of like the closest representative to Void that I could think of that is actually like a playable card in this deck. And Sangan also sort of can represent the Behelit in a way. Then I have Sasuke Samurai for Isidro, and Sinister Serpent to represent Serpico, although you could also use, I think, Hayabasu Knight. I think that would be fitting as well, and he's a warrior. I have Wing Kuribo for Puck, and representing the main character of the series, Guts, I put Dark Blade because it looks kind of like he's wearing the Berserker armor in this image, and even though he really isn't using a big sword, the perspective here makes it look like he is. We have the Mad Dog of Darkness representing the darkness within Guts. And we have the Skull Mariner to represent everyone's least favorite character, the boat. For spells, I have After the Struggle to sort of represent not only the dark nature of this series, being that this was originally called After the Genocide, but also in a way it can represent the sacrifice. Duo is just in here because it's a staple alongside Graceful Charity and Pot of Greed. Although I'm sure you can make some parallels. Heavy Storm and Mystical Space Typhoon, I suppose you could say, are references within this series as well. I will see if I can put a picture on screen of what exactly. It's hard for me to explain. Nobleman of Crossout, I think, is the closest representation to Pretty Boy Griffith in the series. And of course, reinforcing the army, not only because we have so many warriors, but I mean, they were in the military after all. Snatch Steel, not really much of a reference, but again, it's kind of like a staple card. And Wicked Breaking Flambridge Bow, or Bayou, however it's supposed to be pronounced, I thought was the closest thing to the Dragon Slayer that I could find. As far as direct references to, there's Nightmare Wheel, which I put in there to represent the wheel skeletons. And Sakuretsu armor could kind of be seen as the Berserker armor as well. Torrential Tribute and Ultimate Offering, just like After Struggle, can also represent the sacrifice. A couple others that could go in as well. There's Bazu, the Soul Eater, who is a bit like Wild, I think. Behemoth, the King of All Animals, is also kind of like Zod, as well as Lesser Fiend. And then we have Gorg the Strong, who is kind of like Pippin. Nuvia the Wicked kind of looks a lot like a number of the apostles within the series, but especially, I think, like the Baron. We have Ascending Dog Marin, or everyone's favorite fluffy-haired girl who really didn't seem like she deserved redemption at first. And there's Pixie Knight to represent the character from the arc nobody talks about. The Angel of Wisdom Mercury, I think, could also be used for Mosgoose or for his pseudo-apostles. And Tribe-Infecting Virus, again, that could sort of represent the sacrifice as well, I think. The fusion deck here I didn't really fill out with anything specific. So, with that out of the way, I want to briefly talk about the influence of Berserk on my life. For a good while in my life, I was in a very, very dark place because one of my coworkers, who I was really close to, passed away, and then one of the family pets passed away as well. And it wasn't just that she passed away, but that I was made to hold her as she passed away, which was the first time I actually witnessed anything in my life die. And I felt completely powerless, and I felt like somehow, even though there's no way it was, that it was my fault that she had passed away. And I started to go into a very bad place where I hated everyone and everything around me. And to make matters worse, about a year later, my sister's dog attacked my dog, nearly killing her. And then my sister refused to even pay the vet bill. And that caused a lot of strain in the family, and it accelerated my hate to the point that the only thing that kept me alive was anger and hatred toward everybody around me. And if I didn't hate, then I don't know what I would have done. I never wanted to bring physical harm to anybody, but I just couldn't stand myself. I couldn't stand the world, and hate was where I went to. And then when I found Berserk and I started to read it, I began to understand a bit about these themes of having hatred and sadness all around you. And Berserk even makes a direct reference to something that I was feeling, which is the thing about hatred is it's a place where people who can't look sorrow in the eye without wavering run off to. And I have resonated very strongly with me, and I felt like by reading this I could better understand myself, and I could work through the pain and the hatred I was experiencing. And that's when I sort of started to try to reform myself, and for a long time I tried to be 110% positive, and perhaps I was a bit too positive for a while. And now I try to be positive, and unfortunately sometimes I have anger issues still, and that's something I need to work on. But reading through Berserk and experiencing the pain and suffering and the hatred that the characters experienced helped me, honestly. And knowing that from interviews that Kentaro Miura was feeling so much depression and all of these dark emotions throughout his life, and then to hear that you can see it even when you're reading the manga, and then to hear that he passed away, and thinking about how he may have been feeling so sad and lonely, perhaps. Not that I pretend that I actually knew him as a person or that we were friends or something like that, but that's just the way it made me feel at the moment. It felt like I had lost someone close to me, and I'm not upset that Berserk is never going to get finished because I really like Berserk, so I just want to read some more. I'm just really sad that he passed. And people keep talking about how, his understudy will finish it. And it's like, if anyone else works on Berserk, it's not going to be Kentaro Miura anymore. So it's not going to be Berserk anymore. It's not going to be the same emotions. It's not going to be the same pain. It's not going to be anything like it was before. Even if they follow how it was plotted to go, the actions, the words as they come out are not going to be the same. And unfortunately, it's just fitting in the end that Berserk didn't get to finish before his passing, but I unfortunately very recently lost my father to cancer about a month ago from when I'm posting this video, and it sort of put into perspective more and more the mortality of people, and I'm not quite as upset as I was, but as you could tell, I'm still a bit sad that he's gone. Like, I'm even teary-eyed right now, although my voice sounds weird because I actually have a cold, but I am still teary-eyed. I guess I'm starting to ramble now, so I will leave it there. I'm very sad to have him pass, but I feel like after a year of dedication, my thoughts, and I made sure to never change my avatar from something Berserk in memory of him. I think after a year, I did my service, and I think I can allow this to pass, and I think that and even though it's not some big thing, that I in some way contributed to the memory of him, and I can move on, and hopefully we can all move on, and hopefully we will see more people like him. Thank you very much for listening this far, and have a good one.